Hello everybody, welcome to another video, Stan's Auto Repair. Today, just a quick short about tie rod. Felt wobble in my car, checked the side it was coming from, thought it was the passenger side. Because I just recently, like a week ago, checked the driver's side tie rod and it was solid. But this is how fast tie rods can go. You look at it, it's dirty. The boot has a tear, but it's not ripped. But as you can see, that spins quite freely. It also moves up and down. So basically, in a nutshell, as I'm driving, every now and then it'll do this. But then when I hit potholes or bumps, it would jump. But the weight of the vehicle, it would actually make a noise. I can't really mimic it because I'm not heavy as a car. And I don't have that same force. But see, what can happen when your ball joint gets this bad, eventually enough force or a big enough pothole, it's going to literally separate from here and here. So what you're going to have is you got your bolt that's on here, and then your knuckle is right here. This whole section right here is going to pop off, and this whole section down here is still going to be attached to your car. Now, some folks are lucky enough when this has happened to them, they've been turning slowly in a parking lot or a parking spot or backing out of a parking spot, and boom. Because sometimes you got to turn really sharp. The bad part about when this breaks is if you're going high speed. Typically, I would say anything over 10 miles an hour can get pretty dangerous. Because what's going to happen when this breaks, your tire is going to kick out. Or it's going to kick in. But it's going to, whatever. The higher speed you're going, really the only thing holding your tire on now is the knuckle itself. This ain't holding it no longer. Because this is also support to keep your tire assembly all together. So when this breaks, your tire is going to kick in. And that can get dangerous. Because if you're going to high speed, it can flip your car. It could careen you into oncoming traffic and then head-on collisions. Or if you're on a curvy road, it could careen you over the side of the mountain, which is pretty dangerous. Or if you're lucky, it jams in there, gets stuck, and then your car just skids to a halt. What most people do is they hit their brakes. That's the worst thing you can do if your tire's popped off. If you're lucky enough to keep moving and your tire's still straight because of the newt force and the ground is, and the road you're on is actually flat, there's a possibility your tire could stay straight as long as your steering wheel doesn't move. But as soon as you hit your brakes, it's going to pull your tire. So what the rule of thumb is, if you have the pedal emergency brake, it's very difficult to use that with your foot and use it like a brake. With practice, you can. Because in my old Impala, I had the foot pedal for the emergency brake. And I learned how to give it just enough to use it. Yeah, you're going to get brake light come on. You're going to hear ding, 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 ding because you're moving using your emergency brake. That's normal. But if you have the center console, you can actually just pull that up. Keep your finger on the thumb portion and pull that up. Now, you're going to have to slowly slow down, but also if you're able to, if you just have D, drive, revert, neutral, reverse, and park, it's going to be kind of risky. But if you have, like 4, 3, 2, 1, or you have 3, 2, 1, or you have slap over, manual type, do that. Use your transmission to help slow you down and use your emergency brake. You may even have to have the passenger in your car, hit your shifter down, just like, drop it down in gear and just slowly come to a stop. If you're able to do that, 9 times out of 10, you don't even get that chance. Your tire snap, boom. Luckily, I've seen some folks, it's happened. Now, just picture your car all nice and pristine, and then that tire kicks in, rips your fender back. Or it literally rips because you're going higher speeds. Luckily you don't crash, but literally your tire kicks so hard, it hits the fender back, which jams your door shut to where you can't open it. But then it literally rips your strut and your axle and everything off your car. That's happened, and that's dangerous because now you have a solid object off in the traffic. So, the rule of thumb is, I was an idiot driving around like this. I just found this out yesterday when I was changing my sway bar links. Well, I got parts coming, but because of COVID, things are moving a little bit slower. I ordered these inner and outer tie rods before I ordered the sway bar links the same time I ordered these, but I got my sway bar links, I got them yesterday. So I already swapped that out because the sway bar links were shot, so there was the movement from that, the control arm was, not being stable. So changed that. That helped give it a little bit more stable, so there wasn't so much. So this wasn't having to do, and that's probably what prematurely wore this out so fast, because this is dirty, but it's not that old. There's a lot of crust on here, but if you look closely, this rubber isn't cracked or nothing. It's actually still in pretty good condition. But also the problem with these sealed tie rods, there's no grease port. So when these dry up, they go out faster because of the heat and friction. So it's always best to get them with, the grease port, so you can grease them when the grease, wears off or dries out or whatever. So the ones I did order don't have grease ports, but the thing is, if you get these, typically depending on your car, or depending on, just read the description, the ones I bought, I can get 100,000 miles out of the tie rod before it's recommended to change again. So when you get your tie rods, find out when your next interval, when you should change them, because you definitely want to change them before they go bad. Definitely before they go bad, because you should not have this much play. Basically, a new outer tie rod, you got to give it force to move it. But if you're a strong person, you can not as much force. But there's some folks, I've seen them, they've tried to move this because they can't budge it because it's that taut. Now, I will say this much. Changing these yourself can be a bit difficult because some of the aftermarket are just a straight shot. This actually has a little spacer that goes on the end. The aftermarkets really don't have that, and they really don't, and the spacer don't fit on a lot of the aftermarkets. Because I went with a cheap Valucraft just to get me through. But this is that little spacer that I'm talking about. It goes here on the end. It doesn't give a lot. It's just very little. And if you take the time and you figure out how much distance that is, you can back your nut that's on your inner tie rod enough to compensate for the loss. All right, so, and another trick. See how that's just spinning, and it, but if it gets held, this part right down here, you can put a socket on that, or vice grips or whatever, and hold that, because sometimes these nuts, they get on a tight spot, and then this just whole turns when this is bad. So typically when you get about here, you can just get it off. Or then you can get your vice grips up here and get it the rest of the way off. Pop these out. You can, since you're changing anyways, 3-pound sledgehammer, sometimes a couple whacks pops it out, or you need to get a pickle fork. That goes underneath here, and then you'll hit the end of the pickle fork pretty much a good couple bam, bam with a sledgehammer. Pops it right out. Alright, thank you all for watching. And remember, if it's broke, fix it.